We're going to hit step 4 here. Systems of 3 linear equations. This will be a little bit shorter video for step 3. And then we'll have one more video after this that will cover, I'm sorry, this is step 4. We'll have one more video after this that will cover step 5 and 6. So the first video was step 1. Second video, which is a longer video, consisted of step 2 and 3. This will be another short one on step 4. And then the last video will cover step 5 and step 6. And so I've reset it up to where we had our original 3 equations, right? The one written in black, the one written in red, and the one written in green. That's what we started out this problem with. And at the very beginning in step 1, we determined and we set z equal to something. So let's get this out of the way for a minute because we're not going to need this one at this time. Okay? So z equals something. Let me clean this up a little bit. Let me just copy it to be quicker to do it this way. So we said z equaled 1 plus x minus 2y. So that's what z equaled. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the 2 equations that we came up with in step 2 and 3. So again, the very first thing we did was step 1. We had z. We got z, right in here. And we haven't touched that since. Okay, we're still not touching it. We've gone through step 2. We've gone through step 3. We still have not touched z equals. We've left it alone ever since we got done with it in the first step. We're still going to leave it alone. And what we are going to do, though, is we are going to take what we came up with from step 2, right? We determined this was in step 2. And we determined this as step 3. So we are going to set these equations equal to each other. And what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of like we did at the very beginning. Let's take a look. If, when I look here, x equaled something, right? X equaled 1 plus y. So we found our x variable in step number 2. So we gave it a value. We gave the value of x 1 plus y. That's its value. So now let's take a look at what we have right here. We have an x. So we're going to, now that we determined its value in step 2, we're going to plug that value into x. So in doing that, that's going to allow us to create an equation that says 1 plus y. Okay? The reason I did that is because it's taking place of this x. All right, let's look at this another way real quick. Okay, let's take this. I'm going to take this equation and I'm just going to move it. I'm going to take it, I'm going to move it over here. Okay, and I'm going to write x minus 2y equals 0. So I've moved this equation now. So now that I've moved it, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it so that it's not an eyesore for you. Okay, so I'm going to remove it because I just moved it, right? I moved it over here. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take, since I know, again, like I said already, since I've determined that x has a value, and this is my value, I'm going to move this into x. So I'm going to get rid of my x, and I'm going to replace it with its value. And the value is 1 plus y, right? This was all initially was equal to x. Now I'm going to look at my like terms. I'm going to take 1, right? Well, like terms. Y is like negative 2y, correct? So if y minus 2y, that's going to give me a negative y. And I have 1, so I'm going to put 1 here. So 1 minus y equals 0. Well, now I want to subtract 1 to get, because again, I'm solving for y now. Okay, I'm trying to find y. I already have x. I've already got x is equal to something. Okay, I've got z is equal to something. And now I got to get a y equal to something. And so I've got to get rid of, since this is the variable that I'm looking for, I got to subtract 1 from both sides. So 1 minus 1 cancels that. And then I got to take 1 from this side. So now I have negative y equals negative 1. But I don't want to leave that variable as a negative. Okay, so what I can do is, what is negative y really? Well, it's really negative 1y. You see that? It's really negative 1y, like an invisible 1. So if I divide out the negative 1, and what I do to one side, I do to the other, okay? That cancels the negative sign, and it leaves me with y, positive y, right? Because the negative 1 and the negative 1 equals, and then negative 1 divided by negative 1, negative divided by a negative is a positive, so that just gives me a 1. So I end up with y equals 1. So if I look at this, what I notice now, I'm going to move this just so it's not an eyesore. So what I have finally is all variables x, y, and z are now equal to something. So 1 plus x minus 2y, the x is equal to 1 plus y and y is equal to 1. And that will conclude step 4. Okay, that concludes step 4. So I had to go through all that process, step 1, step 2, step 3, just to find out what all 3 variables were equal to. So we're going to stop the video here, and we're going to move into the final part, which is probably the easiest of all the parts.